Are we really being programmed to stay poor? I don't know, but we will try to figure that out. You see, the reality of experienced investors is to read between the lines, because getting true factual information these days is almost impossible, especially when it comes to geopolitical events. And it is no secret that the human mind is easily programmed with the information that it absorbs on a daily basis. So what most people do not realize is that when it comes to finances, you are playing a rigged system. It's like going to the casino. You're literally being programmed to stay poor. So in today's video, I want to talk about the top 3 main problems that I see when it comes to this kind of, let's say, poor mental programming, which will hopefully make you understand the problem so much better that you can also learn to read between the lines. But first of all, I want to welcome you to Crypto Never Sleeps. And in case you're new here, well then please make sure to hit like, smash subscribe so that you can become among the 1%. My name is Nico Harachi and I am the host of this little show. You see, I'm a huge believer that determination and willpower are some of the most important things when it comes to success. Most people are blaming everybody and everything for their failure all the time. I believe it's because their mindset is wrong and they are simply not destined to succeed. In order to succeed, you need discipline, you need to have visions, you need to have big dreams and goals, obviously. And yes, I do believe that you have to work on your mindset as well. But let me tell you one thing, having the right mindset or the right amount of discipline without any action plan or knowledge on how to get there is basically a waste of time. The reason why I'm kind of starting the video this way is that it is very important for you to understand that there are potentially things that are working against you, because you or I or our society have been specifically programmed to think and act in a certain way. And I do believe that if you want to achieve real success, you need to work on your mindset to ensure that it will support success on an unconscious level. So even though the key to success is about discipline, determination and the right mindset, that is really just one tiny piece of the puzzle. So I want to talk about 3 main ways of how we are being programmed in today's society for scarcity and how we are being programmed every single day for that. And then in the end, I do want to share some of my ways or some ideas of what has worked for me in order to reprogram my mind and go against the trend. And who knows, it might be helpful for you. So let's start. So the first way that we are being programmed is at the level of school, when we start with our educations. You see, I believe that the educational system today is programming us to be more or less sheep or workers, you could say. You see, unfortunately, a lot of the ways that we are programmed to be poor, or let's say at least programmed to stay in a certain economic class, comes down to the educational system that we are participating in today. So I'm just going to focus on how this relates to your own finances and how in most countries of the world the national schooling system is built on very similar foundations. Most people don't realize that the way that we go to school is based on an educational system developed more than 100 years ago. When we started automating tasks and producing products during the Industrial Revolution, the world needed people that would man these machines and factories that were popping up all over the globe. But they didn't just need people, they needed people, or let's say sheep, that would follow orders that were agreeable. That would be told what to do, when to do it and how to do it, and just execute those tasks in the factories. And at that time, formal education was reserved only for the super rich. Now I would say that good education is today also only for the rich. But if you can afford to pay around $2,000 to $3,000 a month, well then you get a completely different education. And I'm proud to say that my daughter is participating in a school like that, and I can see the difference. However, about 100 years ago, in Germany, they had this fantastic idea of setting up what is called factory schools, believe it or not. So yes, education was provided by the government for free, and all children, they could learn in a regimented and controlled way with the intention of producing as many sheep as possible in order to man the machines during the Industrial Revolution. So in case you think, I'm going crazy here, I want to read you a quote from an economist called John Mirka, and he's actually talking about these factory schools. Much of this education, however, was not technical in nature, but social and moral workers who had always spent their days working in domestic settings had to be taught to follow orders, to respect the space and property rights of others. They needed to be punctual, docile, and sober. Early industrial capitalists spent a great deal of effort and time in a social conditioning of the labor force, especially in Sunday schools, which were designed to inculcate middle-class values and attitudes as to make the workers more susceptible to the incentives that the factory needed. So yes, the government did provide a free education, but the desired outcome of that was just to create these sheep that would say, meh, that would say yes sir, no sir, turn up on time, fulfill the orders, and just man the machines of the Industrial Revolution. Process of state-sponsored schooling to turn people into factory workers was obviously quickly rolled out by the rich industrial states nations across the world. First it was North America and then Europe, and once the United States adopted this system, the rest of the world followed the system. You see, they still do not want free thinkers or financially rich people. The educational system wanted to program these people to do nothing more than fill the factory jobs in society. This is why they were never taught to critically think, to provide value for society, or to manage their own finances. They were taught to follow orders and fit into a box. And unfortunately, this is the exact same schooling system that we still have today. And I'm living in Ukraine, and I can tell you the school system here is very much like that. I am from Denmark, it's a small country. There, thank God, or at least when I went to school there, they were still kind of promoting free thinkers. And that is why a little country like Denmark, a little country like Sweden, that they still have many companies, new companies that have been able to turn into global companies that are doing business around the world. You don't see many of them from Russia or Ukraine or from, let's say, the communistic style of education, unless they're government owned. So during the most important years of your life, if you go to any traditional school, you are educated or programmed in a very specific way. As of today, there's no focus on critical thinking in most schools in most countries in the developing world. So there's basically no education pushing our children into entrepreneurship or creating products or services when they leave school. They come out like sheep and slaves. And almost without fail, the education system does not touch on anything related to managing finances, your personal finances, growing your wealth when you're outside of school, or mastering your finances, mortgages, or taxes. Basically nothing. And don't forget, you never hear anything about the monetary system. So sure, lots of jobs have changed since the Industrial Revolution, but the educational system is still creating sheep, employees, and paycheck-to-paycheck workers. Get an education, maybe go to college, get a good job, stay at that job for the rest of your existence. It's amazing, right? Be an asset to somebody else's company, then retire and then die. This is how most of us have been programmed. So no wonder that so many people are finding it really hard to break out of the system, break out of society. But luckily, there is a small percentage of us that has gone through that educational system, and we were able to come out on the other side and still break out and think critically. I would like to believe that's you and I, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be here. I want to thank you for being here, and in case that this is new to you, I just want to congratulate you. The second point of this video is the belief of programming. You see, the second major way that I see that we are being programmed to be poor is because of our beliefs. And there are two ways that this can happen for the most part. For some of us, it was because we were surrounded by specific people, I like to call them pigeons, perhaps even, our own family that were arguing about finances. Now for others, it was hearing family members speak poorly about anyone that did have money. Remember, money can't buy happiness. I remember that's how pigeons, they like to tell all their children and everybody. If you see somebody rich, he's probably not happy. And for some of it, for some other people, it was growing up in communities that were struggling. Their family was struggling or they were living in poor neighborhoods. Pigeon hoods. Most people that grow up in an environment like this are programmed from birth to have a negative connotation when it comes to finances and anyone that has money. I also have to say my uncle was very wealthy, and I saw some things through the way that he was living his life where it made it possible for me, or where I grew up to believe that you can make money if you want to. But if you live in Pigeon Town, no. You gotta stay pigeon. It's the wrong mindset. So if you've been brought up from a young age to believe that money is evil, can't buy happiness, money makes people evil, money causes problems, money is hard to come by, probably the worst thing. So chances are that you have that kind of programming in your subconscious mind still in your adult life. And that can be very hard to change. There was a smart man who once said, "Give me a child until it's 7 years old and I will show you the man." Basically what he meant was, show me how this child was raised up until the age of 7. Because the important years of that child's life, the programming that they experience, and most likely that what they have learned in the first 7 years will dictate how that person will act, will live out the rest of their lives. You see, in my opinion, this is very true when it comes to how people react and act and believe in themselves, and when it comes to finances, money, success. Most people have a negative relationship when it comes to these topics, and a lot of them don't know where this came from. Oftentimes, it is because of the situations that they were brought up in. I'm going to repeat myself, but think of it this way. If you were born into a poor community and everybody around you was poor, chances are that this is the only reality that you would have known, and the only reality that you believe that you can also have for yourself. Nothing. And this is why, statistically speaking, people from poor communities, they tend to live out their lives in poor communities. Not just because they have much less access to opportunities, but because they can't mentally imagine a different way of existing. Being poor, living in lack, may be so imprinted into our childhood, the brain, the mind, that it's made its way into the subconscious belief system that rules our children, perhaps even you and I, and rules most likely their future financial life. But again, it hasn't made it completely into our minds yet, right? Because you are here. So the first thing to understand is that it is not our fault. And just because a situation was in a certain way, doesn't mean that it has to continue, does it now? It can be changed. And all we gotta do is talk a bit about what we can do in the future. Now let's talk about the media. You see, the other part of being kept poor by belief comes from the media, TV, and social media. Just look at the Hollywood movies, for example. The bad guy almost always seems to be wealthy. It might be an evil king, evil queen, and they are filthy rich. Or it could just be a billionaire supervillain in cartoons, even like Scrooge McDuck. No matter what story you read or what movie you have watched, the media always portrays the rich person as evil. And then, usually, the heroes that are fighting against these rich people, evil people, are just poor, normal, middle class, or perhaps even low class. Something like War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, right? I mean, he's certainly not rich, but he's noble. And there are endless examples of this in the media that shows that whoever is rich has definitely manipulated someone or cheated, lied, or stolen. Of course, we do have contrary examples like the rich superhero Batman, right? But the vast majority of the narrative in fantasy is making rich people out to be evil. So let's say you've been watching this stuff from a very young age, absorbing it, because of course we love to watch cartoons and we love to, or let's say we are watching what we are being fed, right? It's not so interesting to read a book. So if we've been absorbing all of this into our brain, into our mind, don't you think that that kind of programs our brain, our mind to think like that? I actually do. I'm not saying that we should all turn off our TVs and no more mainstream news or fake media or social media. What I am saying is you should and this is important, try to be aware and pay attention that if there is a negative narrative around finances when you watch these types of videos, that you need to be conscious and do not allow that to come into your mentality, certainly not into your subconscious mind. Third and final point is, we are poor by design. Now most people, they are truly poor by design. See, the truth is that the majority of the population are designed to be poor. I've said it 3 times. And it is mostly this design of the systems, or let's say the society that we live in. And this rich system resolves around unchecked capitalism. Now, first of all, I do want to say that I am all about capitalism. I have found my own way of being able to generate my own wealth and not be a slave or a sheep of the society or the country that I was born in. Capitalism truly creates opportunity and obviously also the ability for people to create something for yourself, for themselves. Create something for you, for your family, something that makes you happy, something that you enjoy doing and not being stuck in some 24/7 hour slavery. Third and final point, we are poor by design. You see, the truth is that the majority of the population is designed to be poor. And it's mostly the design of the system that we live in. Now, I do want to say that before we move on, that I am all about capitalism. You see, capitalism, in my opinion, can actually get you achieve the kind of independence that we also deserve. Capitalism creates opportunity and obviously also the ability for you and I to create something for yourself, for your family, create something that you actually enjoy doing instead of being stuck in a job with a boss where you have to do what you don't feel like doing or where you don't feel that your own potential is being created or appreciated. Without a doubt, money allows us to give ourselves and the family the things that we truly want in life. So I am a big believer and a big fan of capitalism. But please don't be fooled by multiple corporations advertising or let's say promoting a lifestyle that we feel that we should be living if we want to portray ourselves as successful. You see, the foundation is obviously consumption, getting us to consume more and more. And by all means, take a credit from the bank, right? Take a credit from the few regulated banks that are allowed to run a banking entity, so that you can always stay in debt and have no chances of leaving the debt spiral behind you. I myself have been, I have to admit, a slave of the debt-based monetary system for the majority of my life. My goals, my dreams, they were only to become what the corporations were presenting as a happy life. And it wasn't until the housing bubble of 2008 bursted and I found myself very much alone and in a personal depression. That was the time when I needed to ask myself, what is the real meaning of life? And only then was I able to understand who I want to be, what I need to do in order to be happy and provide the same for my children. Now, what I needed to do was to distance myself from our debt-based consuming society. I needed also to distance myself from 99% of all the people and business partners that I knew at the time. But you know what? That was the best thing I ever did. Because now I have become, for the most part of my life, my true self. A healthy, a wealthy father who believes truly in sharing is caring. And let me tell you one thing. Since I turned my back to the past, I have been able to create more money than I ever did before. The paradox is, however, I'm also spending less than ever before. But the fact is, I'm living the life that truly makes me happy. And I want only the same for you. I hope this video brought you some kind of value. In case it did, well then please come and join our live streams. This is where I really share. And until now, I gotta say, no one is better than I am. My name is Nico Harachi, and I am number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's young, he's handsome, he's a prophet, he's a poet, They know it. I must be the greatest.